Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the Vault. Trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live or listening to replay. Always know that we have a ton of listeners that listen live or listening to replay. And, just always they show support. These are people that they want to contact the Vault for matters that they feel pertinent to them. And so we always appreciate people reaching out and moving forward with the Vault and listening. And so we're on episode 189, status correction, modify the contract. And this is a critical episode because for so many years we've had people contact the Vault. It's a resounding question, especially from the Moorish Science Temple. We got a ton of people that contact us just they're on the going the SPC route. We're coming for everybody today because we want to go ahead and set the record straight for the status correction, modify the contract because so many people have tried to come at the Vault and say, well, the Vault only talks about business. But what happens and what people miss is they're doing commercial status corrections, but they're not doing it or thinking of the fact that it's a contract in place. Things are in place for a reason. So, this is going to be a great episode. Really wanted to actually bring before you all another voice that's in the private that's gone through trustee training. Really don't bring out a lot of trustees from the private. There's been tons of trustees through the years that have gone forward and moved forward with their lives. But we in particular just wanted to bring this trustee as another resounding sound of the same message of what the status correction is because there's so many that come into knowledge of self, know thyself. Everyone wakes up to knowledge of self and then they say, okay, I'm not a commercial entity. I'm not a commercial puppet. Okay, you're not a commercial puppet. You're not a commercial entity. You're not public entity. You don't want to be public. Everybody wants to go private now. This is the whole status correction thing is supposedly the community wants to go private. So there's a lot of these get rich quick heroes out here that are getting rich quick off of the parroting of someone that wrote a book that found out that there is a commercial jurisdiction, that there's a public and everything goes on well on the yellow brick road. So let's again, ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 189, status correction, modify the contract, because it's rather important to go ahead, just get out of the way. So many people have contacted the vault throughout the years for the status correction. Oh man, well, what about this for the status correction? What about this? It's like, ladies and gentlemen, if you even wake up to what you think is that, how many have the wherewithal to do it? Oh man, well, don't just tease me. Tell me how to do it, because now these self-help gurus have wrote books on how to do it. Okay, so they wrote the redemption book and this book and that book, and you're reading the books, and then how much richer are you because of the books? Right.
Mm.
That's called the rabbit hole. Everybody says, "Oh, I've been going down this rabbit hole for years. I just didn't want to get too deep. I've been going down the rabbit hole for a long time. I didn't want. I don't. I mean, it's a deep rabbit hole. I'm trying to get out. Okay, and you do have to dig out of it." Because when someone says I'm going from public to private, that means you're going into responsibility. You're going into total responsibility. You're going into private. You're going into I'm going to take care of myself. That's what happens. We know this. Everybody has the aspiration. But yes, we're going to let go of some mentalities through this status correction episode, modify the contract, because so many people come with the, oh man, we got our family estate in place, we're living off the land. Look, we're going to give you stories today we've heard from years from these guys, years. These guys, oh, look, man, X, Y, and Z, they went and they got in this situation. Yeah, because they what? Did they stand on the contracts? No, they tried to create new contracts, following the leader, supposedly, when the leaders didn't change theirs. They just did that on the internet as an
Mm.
alias. The status correction now is knowing how to use business entities instead of the so called name. But no, we're going to go into that. Oh, we're going to. So, I'd like to bring in trustee that's gone through the trustee training, Ken Diz, and we're going to go forward from there.
Hey, peace, peace, y'all. Y'all got a man right here. He got all the jewels, man. Like, if you're listening to him, you in the right spot. Especially with all this calamity going on. Like, this guy right here, he's who you're supposed to be listening to in this situation. Cause he'll get you straight. Like, no lie.
Well, we're not here for high praises. We're here for, good graces. And, we're doing this for the people that have come through the vault through the years, and they say, "Oh, you know, we gotta go private." Do you going from public to private? That's the status correction. People say, "Well, what does that entail?" We've had people come to the vault, and these are your bigwigs. These the ones that got the money. Oh, I'm trying to stay in both of the realms. It don't work that way. You can't accept the
Oh no.
public checks and say, oh, I'm trying to modify the contract. So we're going to talk about the modify the contract aspect because I think so many people feel confined within the contract. When if you just learn the insides of the contract, which means you read the information that makes the rules of that particular contract, the definitions for the words and things of that nature, I think you really see that. So what why aren't we seeing
Right.
that? Candace, I just want you to say status correction for uh, when it comes to you as a trustee. Do you feel that trusteeship is the status correction, or do you feel that there's this, oh, we got to file the UCC, we got to file this, we got to file that? One second, Candace. Gotta
Well, it's
make sure.
crazy
One sec,
because
one sec, one sec, one sec. All right, you live.
well, it's crazy because when I first got on, I got my first consultation. I was on that tip. I was lost because this is the information age. When you come to or awaken, so to speak, and you realize that there's something that's not quite clear, you go and you try to seek that uh, certainty. And so when you go and you search for it, there's all this information, all kind of which way. It'll take you everywhere, but like you'll end up not getting anything done, or you do things irrationally, and get yourself jammed up. So I was excited when my first consultation because there was almost like a line work. There was like a straight road where I had already did my study and my due diligence. So when you said what you were saying, everything clicked, and I was like, okay, I'm on the right path now. This is what I've been seeking. The As far as correction, it starts with the mind. It starts with getting in the mindset that no one's gonna just hand you stuff. That's what the public teaches. That's what they push on the TVs, that you could just sit back and everything's going to be given to you. And then, you wonder why you in the situation you are. And then you start taking responsibility for your actions. You start realizing that if I want to change or I want something to change my environment, I have to do something. So, status correction it starts off with getting that mindset that you have to do something. You have to be willing to do your due diligence. You have to be willing to hit the books and not just go off of somebody else's words. The public thrives on that. You go to your neighbor about something that they have no clue in, and then you get their opinion. They say, "Oh, nah, that's no good. Somebody I know, they failed in this," and then you say, "Oh, well, because somebody that they know failed in it, they didn't do it, and so they're recommending you not to do something based off of somebody else. So now you have a complete circle of nobody doing anything because of speculation. So when we're talking about status correction, the first thing is that mindset that you have to be the director of your life
And that's a
first and foremost.
that's a very challenging point there, because when you're programmed to be a follower, how are you now going to be the alpha? When you go status correction, it's you are the alpha. You're not the beta anymore. There is no more betas. You're alpha. How do you modify the contract? You Everybody says you go from minority to majority. They try to say, "Oh, this the legal term. We gonna go from minorities to majority." Okay, so then what happened to you being the boss? And the boss knows what the accountant does. The boss knows what the law team does. The boss knows that they have a marketing team. That's what the boss knows. See, status correction is an
Exactly.
education correction. It's not just a public school education, it's a private education. It's the investment in yourself. It's the one that you were deprived of. You should have got a voucher for the private education. But did you get a voucher for the private education? No, because it's called Think or Swim. It's either you think about the results you
That
want, or you're going to have to swim. And if you don't swim, you know what's that's going to happen. After that, it's the private education. We seen guys for years peddling information over the internet. Oh man, we got this packet for you. This SEC packet and UCC packet and SPC packet. They all got a packet for you. Okay, they got a packet for you. But how much money did that put in your pocket? See, people, they want to really talk about it, but did it put any money in your pocket? See, the vault is a continuing education program. So it's not anything that advertises and puts out there that is in the marketplace to help put money in your pocket. See, that's the mindset of someone that's supposed to be as a consultant helping you grow the company.
mm,
It's a business mindset. It's not a personal mindset. The status correction, it's not, oh man, I woke up to the system and the system is bad and the this and the that. Sure. We're talking about
well, it's
now.
crazy because
Go ahead.
like you always see the structure of like if you go into corporate America, like you have the workers, right? How many workers are there? There's, a lot of them. Then you have the managers. Well, there's not as many managers as there are workers. And then above them, of course, you go up the triangle and, or the pyramid. Most people talk about pyramid schemes. Look at your local corporation. You have the CEO usually over the CFO and the COO, and there's other chief officers that the chief executive officer, you know, con- controls or at least manages. So the going from the minority to the majority is is that it's the minority of people who hold the majority of the wealth. The majority of the people went to public school. It's the minority of the people that invest in themselves and get out the rat race, so to speak.
Right.
They say, I know I no longer want to participate in poverty. So I'm gonna take what I got and I'm gonna utilize it. I'm gonna put it to work. I'm gonna invest in myself, in my education, my private education, the stuff they didn't teach about in school. They didn't teach me nothing about insurance in school. They didn't teach me nothing about money in school. They didn't teach me nothing about credit in school, real estate, taxes, all these things that we deal with as adults on the daily was never taught to us in public school. Those things we in the public, you fumble around and you find yourself in the ask your next neighbor type of situation.
Right. And the
And
private
all
is
you have
mentorship.
are
When you go private, you get mentorship. See, so many people, they'll come to the vault, they'll come to get the consultation, and then they say, well, I'm apprehensive now to know you're the real deal. Where else is the real deal? Oh, I listened to those other guys on that other network. Okay, then look, you got to make a choice. That is the correction.
mm,
It's a correction in your mindset. It's a correction to say, I'm going to accept mentorship from who, and whoever it is. So you have the situations where you might go with one mentor, might find out, oh man, this mentor I outgrew him. Okay, here's another mentor. Oh man, I outgrew him. What do you mean? I outgrew at least three mentors in my 20s. At least three mentors because they wanted to hold me back. Oh, you think you had the mentor had the best for you? Sure, he did. A status correction is a mindset correction. You modify the contract. You say, okay, I could do this better. After you've been doing it, you do it better. So many people come to the
exactly.
status correction. They come to these gurus. The gurus are going to show you how to do it, but they don't really show you how to do it. Because you're sitting here wondering, is this all that it was? Was a filing a document in the public? It is a public notice. That's all I was doing was filing a public document. Yeah, that's what you think it is. See, and then they tell you, oh no, it's not. It's not just about the document. Ain't no paperwork gonna save you. So now it's contradictory, right? That's the public. So the documents they ain't gonna save you. You gotta know how to stand on your square. Okay, so now we're talking in metaphors. So we're at the metaphor stage of, okay, you gotta stand on your square. Here we go. This is what it's called. Are you ready? It's called fear. It's called false
Mm,
expectations appearing real, not the evidence. Because just because you don't see the evidence of the private existing doesn't mean it doesn't exist. See, some people try to say, oh man, I don't know. They're trying to take away my private rights. Sure, they aren't. Why would a private person take away their rights? See, that's the backwards
right.
thinking that they have on the public. Is, oh, well, hey, the private sector, their rights are going to be taken. No, they're not. And the status correction, some people say, well, can the status correction, can that save me? You know, look, we've seen a lot of things go through in our day. That's just point blank, period. In the last 5 to 8 years, we've seen so many people come up with these different processes called the status correction, SPC, UCC, Dippity DD. It doesn't matter. You got all these different names for it. But once again, here we go. When the vault came out, we said we're going trustee training. Why? Because if you're in the private, you taking back over the family estate. You moving in the family estate capacity. You going family estate status. So now that means you're making sure your family is in the correct position. It's the estate correction, not the status correction. It's the estate correction. You're making sure your estate is moving in the proper capacity. Where your family, if something happens to you, your legacy will live on. Why? Because rules, principles, and laws are put in place for your family to perpetuate the status correction of we're not just in the public, we're private, and we're going to maintain that position. That's how you modify it. But for some odd reason, so many people out here, we know a lot of people have spent their money. I mean, people have spent long, hard dollar out here. We're talking tens and thousands of dollars out here. And at the end of the day, we understand what happened. They got caught up in the sensationalism. It's the sensationalism of, oh man, somebody's going to come and save me. No one is going to come and save you in the private. Be prepared. It's called bare naked over here. So when you're talking, oh, you're going private, you're going bare naked for a second. You have to learn how to build your own clothes. You have to build your own house. You have to build your own water. You have to build all of that. You say you're going private, that's what it is. But no, no, no. Some people want to keep their feet in the public because they enjoy the public benefits. And that's what they're called. Well, what if I go solar? Is that good? Clearly, it's dependent on nature. You gotta have sunlight. We know people that have gone
Right.
geothermal. But at the end of the day, what happened? A lot of people they got caught up in the, you know, we want to see somebody walk on water status. We want to see somebody slip and slide with the $1 billion birth certificate. If you get the birth certificate, then you're going to put $1 billion lien on it. Anybody that touches the name, we got them. Sure, if you were only that intelligent to actually enforce the contract, were you able to enforce the contract of your $1 billion lien? This arbitrary number of $1 billion. Now, did what happened? That's the false expectation. That's the false that you're gonna get something for nothing. Oh, I'm gonna sue somebody for using the name. If it only sounded that good, we see the guys. We've seen the guys, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, lawsuits work. People do it all the time, so people do it. But what happened to
Right.
what do you think of some of the fears, Kendez?
Fear, the false expectations appearing real. That's that blockage in your decision making that paralyzes you to not do anything or to veer you off the track that you was already on. Because when you get into trustee training, one of the things you realize is that it's about stewardship. It's about asset management. Now, what is your greatest asset and what is your greatest liability? It's you. You are your greatest asset and your greatest liability. No one can raise your hand as easy and as effortlessly as you can. So if you want to see something change, it's got to be you that's going to do it. But guess what? You never done it before. So you freeze. It's like, no, if you've never done it before, but you want to go do it, the first thing you do is you go find out about it. Now, do you go just talk to your neighbors? No. You want to go to somebody who's already doing it, who's already doing it big, who's doing it as big as you want to do it. And you say, I want to see what you're doing because I want to be exactly in your situation. And that's how you start being a mentee. That's how you create that mentor mentee relationship. You go and you find somebody who's doing it that could help guide you.
And and this is
Now,
now this is where we get straight into it. For all the ones out there talking to status correction and they got the $1 billion lien on their name and all of this, look, we're in the the private wealth environments. We see the red caps walking around? No. We're in the private environments. The status correction, we already know what we could say. It's your but that's not just a level of intelligence because there's people that got a ton of cash and they're not super intelligent either. Everybody's going through their process of learning. In this particular situation, I think so many people overestimate the process. Oh man, you got to be smart to be rich. You got to be smart to do that. You got to have all this intelligence. Okay, so what happened to getting and hiring a paralegal or hiring someone to do the status correction? But once again, we don't see them in the private environments with us, with the ones that are on the internet peddling the meddling. That's just to be honest with you guys. We're in the private environments. We've had private traders come on. We've had people listen to the vault and they've moved forward with the vault as far as dealing with other people on the private side. So we already know the success ratio. But when we talk about the status correction, we're talking about now like this says either assets or liabilities. What's the greatest asset or liability? Do you have passive assets as opposed to just active assets? So many people are trying to just build active assets. It's like, well, you don't want to just build active assets. You want to build passive assets. It's like that's the status correction. Is okay. I'm focused on, like you say, getting out of the rat race. One second here, Candace. And it's about the assets and liabilities. And when you have assets that your family can live off for years to come, then you'll be fine.
Yeah, and the process, it's the same processes you've been through before in your life. For example, uh, when you first start riding a bike, most people start with training wheels. Then, guess what? Some people don't start with training wheels. But even after you have your training wheels and you get them taken off, you might fall a couple of times, a time or two. If you fall, that doesn't mean that the bike is bad. That doesn't mean that you just don't have the ability to ride a bike. It just means that you get back on it again and you continue riding the bike. Now, say if you fall again, it still doesn't say that you can't ride a bike or that you're just incapable of doing it. You just fail. But guess what? You can always get back up again. So long as you didn't get ran over or ran off a cliff or something like that, which is like, why would you be in that environment when you know you're still in training mode? Now, eventually, you're gonna be like, hey, I'm going over so and so house, and you're gonna hop on that bike and get off without even thinking about it. You're not thinking about contracting each and every muscles to do the pedaling. You just on the bike and you're going from A to B. It's your vehicle now. Now you could do the same, go through that same process with success, with making lots of passive income from assets that are generating you wealth, whether you are there or not. It's a process. Now, there are some people with innate abilities or special like tendencies. Like you might see somebody get on a bike their first time ever and just take off. That still doesn't mean that you're incapable of doing it. If anything, it means that somebody else is doing it. So therefore, I'm able to do it. I'm a man. That person is a man or a woman. If they're successful, that's like a, a guideline to say I could be that too. Now I might not be able to just jump in and be successful. Maybe I got to do some reading. Maybe I got to consult with some people. Maybe I just got to get in there and fumble around until I get it right. It's about your determination. It's about the decisions you make because the decisions you make determines the actions you take. Whether you act or not, that's a decision. That's why you want to get rid of fear because it's a decision inhibitor. You're letting something that doesn't even exist keep you from doing something. So you want to make those, we all have the same 24 hours. Now, there are some people that may have been had the cards dealt with them just right. They had a full house off the rip, and you got nothing but threes and fours. But it's not about what hand you got dealt. It's how you
Play the
play
hand.
the hand you got
It's
dealt.
about how you play the hand, baby. You gotta play the hand, you know. And that's the major investment in the game. Like I think when people talk about giving up, they gave up on themselves. So many people they don't want to say that they gave up on themselves, but they cry, they whimper, they come to the vault. They asking themselves, man, should I go private? I wanted to go private till I got on the phone with him. Now all of a sudden, I'm over here still listening to the videos lurking in the what they trying to consider is the private. It ain't the private. Man, look, I got going and I'm good to go. See, they think, see, so many people are at different phases. Some people say, well, if I do this, the paperwork, I'll be fine. Well, if I do this, I'll be fine. Look, it's a process. It's a state correction. You're putting a state back together. You're managing an estate. That's how it looks. You got a lot of moving pieces, a lot of assets, and then you take inventory of liabilities. But here we go. Everybody's been dealt their hand. Hopefully, somebody didn't give up. But if you're still here and you have the opportunity to make sure that the estate is moving in the right correction and the right position by you adopting the trustee mindset and investing either in trustee training for yourself or for your family, or you're moving forward in trusteeship. Now, so many people say, oh, I'm going private, I'm going trustee status, I got something going, I piecemealed it over the internet. First of all, if you skip past the mentorship status, you either got it from your family or you got it from a mentor. That's it. There's nowhere else you get the information. You live in the information age. You know that it's not on the internet. Right. It's from the mentor or from your family. But they piecemealed it through the internet. They took what maybe Trust Christian said in the vault. They took what some other guys said. They actually went to the law library. They put it together through the law library. They actually got a document and everything set up through the law library. That's on them. Okay. But at the end of the day, why do we tell trustees to read the good cases? How many of those people in the public come to the vote and say, hey, have we went over this case? I'm standing on this position in my life. I'm modifying the contract. How many of them are saying that? They didn't modify the contract because they're the beneficiary. You can't modify the contract as a beneficiary. As a beneficiary, you have no control. That's why we did the episode, state beneficiary versus private trusteeship, private trustee training. So many
And
people
that's
say,
one of the
oh, I got the mindset. I got the mindset of a trustee. How? You didn't get mentored. So how you got the mindset of a trustee? I read the books on the internet. First of all, the information is not on the internet. The specific trusteeship information you need to know. Because when we're talking about that, we sat in a room with the guys from Switzerland. Oh man, we got the Switzerland and we're using domestic entities. Get out of here. That's called not being mentored. He might as well got that from the company he works for. But it's his company and he's making sure people are going into Switzerland and doing the things right. Sure they are. It's not hard. You can Google a solicitor in any jurisdiction. Trustee training makes you prepared for solicitors. It makes sure you get the letter for hire. But oh no, so many people through the years have sold the packages. But how many show trustee training? How many show SPC training? They got the SPC universities out here. They got these websites out here, the internet out here. Oh, we're going SPC. Okay, so whatever it stands for, it could be standing for stupid, stupid, stupid. Because, first of all, you're going into a commercial jurisdiction. That's already business, it's not personal. So we already know the correction is more on a commercial aspect, it's a business position. In the business position, once again, you're either the beneficiary or you're the controller. When you go to any corporation, you got the shareholders who are the beneficiaries, and you got the board of directors who are the controllers. That's it. That's all it is. It's you working with your community, whoever you work with, your friends or your family, and being inside of a correct position, which is a proper position in the status of, are you in a business position or a personal position? If you're in a business position, remember, so many people have confused the natural with the artificial,
mm,
but they writing over there on the documents. That's why you heard all the old timers say, "Oh, the paperwork ain't gonna save you." Well, if the paperwork ain't gonna save you, what are we doing the paperwork for? Right. Oh, let me get the birth certificate. Let me get it authenticated. What is the point of doing that? It's already a real document. Man, I'm gonna get it authenticated because then it has authentication and then I can make all this money off it. Okay, show us the ones that have done it. Oh no, they get the money and then they run off and they go hide in the private. You're right. That's what you're supposed to do. If you do that, if you go in the public and you get the funds, you're supposed to be quiet. But at the end of the day, how many people in the public want to do that? They don't. When they get the funds in the public, you want to know what they do in the public? They get flashy, and that's where they get messed up every time because they don't understand that the public is the trendy area. The public is the area where you show off. The private is not. The private is your back to nature. You understand that the business is the business, the personal is the personal. For so many years, oh man, we about to so and so was dealing with this property, and they status is we can live off the land. You can live off the land. How you gonna live off the land? You don't even have your own well for water. Status correction. You modify the contract by making sure you're in trustee training for the rest of your life. So many people come through trustee training and they even still they have to learn at one point, and which they do, that trustee training is a continuing education. So if you're on other websites and learning other pieces of information, then you're learning that okay, these websites are a small piece of a golden nugget. It's a big nugget, but there's a lot of names and a lot of domain names, a lot of pieces of information out here about the trustee mindset. You got it in the White's Concise, you got it in the Black's Law Dictionary. A lot of people would love to cheat the system and get it through their Bouviers. You hear a lot of them say, "Oh man, I've been listening to your show for a long time. I just ain't got into trustee training yet." Okay, how does that help you and your family? Listening to the free content. Because first of all, the whole sit here and talk to you is letting you know, hey, look, we already are aware of the status correction. We're just making you aware that when you go through trustee training, you don't need to think about that anymore. Why? Because on the private side, you understand all you got to do is modify the contract. It's modify. It's you look at the contract now. We had someone recently come to us inside of a music contract, and this guy's gonna say, "Well, I signed the contract, but I didn't know what was in it." Okay, so once again, you disobeyed counsel. That's a fact. One second. So you got to modify the contract, and so many people are looking to say, hey, I gotta end this and do that. And you're like, you know what? When you practice Tai Chi or methods of Qigong, you see that you go with the flow. The status is a commercial status. So you stay, okay, well, what's commercials? I'll leave commercial. And I just want to make sure I'm in the right position. Because guess what? I wasn't in the right position from the way things looked the other day. I know thyself. This is nature versus the entities, versus the entities, period. The artificial. I know that. It's corporate personhood. I'm very aware of that. So once you are in that position, then now you're acting as a true trustee in that respect. Like we say, steward. You have the mindset of being what people even consider politicians, because now you're being a steward of the land. You're being a steward of the laws. The law of the land is own nothing, control everything. But for some odd reason, people still like staying stuck over there in a position of own everything, and that's how life goes on. You see what liabilities it comes from that mindset.
Exactly.
What you got, Candace?
It's like you're living in multiple worlds at once. Like you have your inside world full of your thoughts and like your personal, like that's like ultimate private life. is the life that no one else knows about. It's how you think to yourself, how you're talking to yourself. And then you have the outside world. Well, the greatest one is nature. The sun comes up and it goes down. You know, you have the four seasons, you have nature. But then you also have commerce. It's another world. It's where the paperwork is pushed. These all these corporations, they began as a thought. All the material, even your house, your chair you're sitting on, they were all thought of first before they were manifested in this plane of outer world. It started in the inner world, it went to the outer world. Now, when you're in the outer world, there's, especially in commerce, there's different vehicles that you can use. Now, one of the vehicles is your social security number, or how the most people use it. It's the little canoe where the waves are, 10 foot high, and they can wipe a whole bunch out all at once, which we've just experienced not too long ago. About, you
I mean,
know,
we didn't experience that, but there's the public that
well,
experienced that. I wouldn't say
yeah,
we did, but
yeah, the public experienced that
yeah.
because you're in that little canoe. Now you could have a better vehicle, which is like a ship. You can have a LLC, a corporation, S corps. That's when you start playing the game. That's when you get your monopoly piece and actually start playing on the board. You're no longer on the sidelines, just
Right.
going.
That's the status correction right there. It's going from no OO the CEO. Now we're saying they're not saying you gotta own it, but you gotta definitely control it. Now that's the status correction. Point blank period. So many people think they made it. Maybe many didn't make it. Somebody says, okay, well, what about modifying the contract? Okay, right, modifying the contract. That's where we're talking now. How many people talk about modifying it? Oh, 1 minute and I signed the unconscionable. Yeah, we heard that type of line too before. So that means that you're illiterate. That's what that means. Because
Right,
you didn't read the contract before you signed it, and no one can coerce you unless it was under threat, duress, and coercion. Well, it was. Okay, so you're once again, you're crying wolf. There's no responsibility. So how's that a status correction? You're going from minority to majority. So if you're going from minority to majority, then you're already saying that you're in your right mind, that you're doing big dog status. You're not sitting here saying, oh, well, we're gonna blame this person and blame that person. You let go of all the blame. You know what the system is. You know the game is rigged. You know the game is rigged. You know the game is rigged, and so you sit here like, oh man, how do I beat the game? You got to play by the rules. That's all you got to do. You got to get in line. You're in capitalism. Oh man, the monopoly board that's in this jurisdiction that I'm playing on is capitalism. Otherwise, I got to go private. That's it. And private means you're living off the land very quickly, very subtly. But you're going that route, and it's own up to control everything all the way through.
exactly. And it's crazy because like public schooling, they'll give you the bare necessities, not the basics, just the necessities. Like there's a difference between reading, being able to read, and actually being able to comprehend what you read. And one of the things I appreciate about the continuing education is that you still got to do your due diligence. You still got to go out and hunt. You in the private, you naked. You want to go and get the fur so that you can have something to warm you up. You want to go out and get the spear and sharpen the edge. But sometimes you don't know exactly how to go about it. But you know of it. You've studied it, you've read it, and now you got someone you can come to either confirm or correct your
Hey,
your
I gotta go ahead and go there. Because this is where you get where, oh, I'm gonna kill the messenger because I don't like the messenger. That's the only reason they're going to kill the messenger is because they don't like the messenger. We've had mentors tell us to quit. So what are you going to do? You going to quit the pursuit of your private education? Oh, that's what you're going to do because a mentor told you that? See, that's the
Never.
status correction. It's growing thick skin. So many people say, "Oh man, I could take the vote if you weren't yelling." Guess what? That's what happens in the private. But guess what? You've never been in a multi-million dollar deal negotiation. You don't know about things getting heated in the room. Somebody could say something that makes somebody ask you a question why your dream is worth $1 million. You gotta answer it with passion. But so many people don't know about the passion. Why? Because they live in little miserable lives. Asking me why, oh, why you got to talk so loud? Because when you got to show passion about what you're doing, you got to show passion. But guess what? So many lackluster men, so many lackluster women, they don't understand what passion is nowadays. They mix passion with, oh, you're crazy. You're right. The best CEOs got the most passion about what they're doing. They live it, they love it.
Exactly.
But oh, you gotta try to go after somebody's tone. Oh man, I don't like the way that person speak. But are they speaking the truth? See, so many people say, "Well, I have the eye for the truth." Everybody's got their third eye and fifth eye and fourth eye open. You got all these eyes open. If you got all these eyes open, the truth is simple. You know who you are. Now you're trying to
Exactly.
correct the position. In what position? In what jurisdiction? Why? Because they created jurisdictions. There's these invisible lines that you know about. Know thyself. There's these invisible lines, and you know this. But I mean, well, if you calling them invisible lines, how come I gotta? Why do I even have to play by the rules of the game? Look, if you're going to be in the public, you're gonna have to wear a public face mask. It's that simple. If you're gonna be private, you clearly don't.
Mm.
But oh no, I can't understand how all of this is going on. And this, that, and the third. Okay, once again, it's a correction in your mindset and in your lifestyle. Oh, it's business. It's not personal. It's never, you're not even going back to that thought process. Oh man, woe is me. It's none of that. And we get so many people that have come through the years. Oh man, I did the status correction. Yeah, you did the status correction. So what does that mean? Did you generate any wealth off of that? Are you able to teach your children any wealth off of that? What happens when we come through from the vault? The vault gives you what? People that can aid you in your process. You don't hear dirty stuff on the internet about the vault. Why? Because the vault does its job. See, when we step up to the plate, we give you a base hit. See, that's your job. Your job is to get a base hit. Hopefully, you can get home for your family. That means you get the whole situation taken care of for your family. You make sure that the family's in the right position, that wealth is generated and perpetuated for generations to come. That's called the status correction. That's it. But oh no, psh, man, the moths, all the spiders, all the bad, insects, they gonna come and eat my wealth away. Okay, so they gonna eat your wealth away. Because people are living in fear.
Exactly.
They trying to hide the money underground. You can't hide money in the ground. When you hide money in the ground and you don't put it in the proper container, it actually molds.
Mm.
You're not gonna pull out real money. You're gonna pull out a brick. So status correction is a mindset of, okay, I need to invest in the private education. That's all you did. That's all when y'all really realize that that's all the vault did was we got around the wealthy families and we sat around the wealthy families. The wealthy families said it's plain and simple. This what it is. They said we're not trying to scare you. We're trying to prepare you. They already told you what you needed to have. Essentials. Okay, so when the time comes around when they start using this word essentials, you're already prepared. You got the essentials. Oh man, okay. Well, what about all these terms called social? Well, that's the public. Why? Because you know that. You're educated supposedly now. Okay. I'm in the private. We got so many say. I guess they say they private. I don't know how you private and you're not in some type of community. First of all, private people work together just like public people work together. It's that simple. I see so many people even come into the private and they're like, "Oh, we're trying to raise capital." It's like, well, wealthy people do deals with other people. They don't just do deals all by themselves. They call them JVs. They call them joint ventures. They do GPs. That's called a general partnership. They will give you money to go out and do the deal, and you be the managing partner. So they're the general partner, you're the managing partner. But for some odd reason, people haven't been given a business education because they went to public school.
mm,
It's time to modify the contract. It's that simple. You want to modify the contract? You got to invest in your private education. If you don't invest in your private education, how you gonna be mad at the system? The system, like he said, was giving you the bare minimums. It was giving you the bare needs. And then you got the guys on the internet that are peddling the meddling. I mean, look at these guys. I mean, we deal with the private workshops. We're talking about private workshops at the vault. We got the private workshops. We got when we even deal with the public workshops because you go to the pub, they got wealth managers in the public that are managing wealth in the public, and they share their numbers. They share that they're managing billions of dollars or millions of dollars. So why would you not go listen to a Warren Buffett when he says, "I'm managing $1 billion. This is the companies that I invested the money in from the family estate, from these families that I'm holding their money for." So many people in the community, soon as they think they gonna get in trusteeship, now they trying to be the trustee of the community and be the community chest for money. So many people we seen go through that position. Oh man, I'm gonna do this with other people's money and do that with other people's money. But you're using friends and family's money. You're not using the banks.
mm.
You can use the banks. You're supposed to use the bank's money. Instead, no one's got the education, supposedly on the public side or the private side, how to get the money from the banks. Everybody says you got to have the money to go to the banks. A status correction is an education correction, so you learn that you actually need to know how to get the money from the banks. I need to put together the proper proposal. So many people come to the vault. Here we go. This is their famous line. I'm telling you, if it wasn't 9 out of 10 phone calls, it's 8 out of 10 phone calls. Hey, do you know anybody that's a grant writer? Do you have a grant writer? We need to write grants. Okay. So many you come to the vault saying that. But a grant is a goddamn gonna answer to a question in the public. Who's gonna create a company in this industry? All you gotta do is write back. Well, this is where we're coming into this industry, and this is what we're here to do. It's that simple. It's called a bid for a contract. But oh no, people didn't want to modify their contract status because they didn't want to learn how to bid for contracts. Oh no, they want to sit in front of the TV and scroll.
Mm.
So the losers play the losers game and the winners play the winners game. It is about the speed of information. It's coming through lightning fast. And public school definitely didn't prepare you for it, especially if you didn't have internet going through public school. So if you got internet and you going through public school, then you're getting information lightning fast. So now you got information coming in lightning fast, and you got to figure out what information is the right information or the wrong information. Right. That's called lightning fast mistakes. And public school don't prepare people for lightning fast mistakes. It prepares you to get the right grade the first time. Otherwise, you're failing. See how it's a reverse system? The status correction is learning that you learn from mistakes. That's feedback. Not saying,
And
oh,
that's
I'm only going to learn from my good grades. What you got, Ken Days?
I was saying about the fear because like in the public, you get your lesson first so that you can shoot for that grade, and that's that bare necessity. But in the private, that's where you learn from the streets. You got to get the lesson first because once you get that lesson, you ain't gonna never forget. It's the fear comes from the unknown, not knowing something. People want security, especially in the public. But
That's why it's called social security. Because it's a false security. And
oh,
you got it. And whoever's got it, that's cool. Do you? But we're talking about the ones that they say, oh, we're going status correction. We're going from the public to the private. We're going to put in this paperwork, and supposedly now, our status, we going to be a free man. We got our free papers, whatever that's supposed to mean. Look, ladies and gentlemen, we're just going to go ahead and tell you. when you modify the contract, you don't have to terminate it. So many people think, oh, I'm gonna be the terminator to my past. So then the mentors even told us, be prepared for system exit. And you're like, what? I can't believe he said that to me. And it's like, dang, yeah, he did say that. And most people aren't willing to go that far. So we already know that. So since you're not trying to go that far to leave the so-called precious, one of the strongest militaries in the world, if you're listening to that, and at the end of the day, you're not leaving cozy drive from one state to the next state, fly from one state to the next state. We know that there's some situations going on in the public right now, but once again, that's public. You're supposed to be focused on private. You're digging deeper and deeper in the private hole, not digging deeper in the public hole. But so many, they still trying to get on second base what they got their foot on first. You can't get to second base if you don't take your foot off first. You got to take your foot off first.
And
Status correction.
it's all you're dealing with systems like with the unknown. The unknown is where the opportunities are because you always start with not knowing what you don't know. There's a lot of things that you just don't know, and you don't even know that you know them, that you don't know them. But when you're dealing in the unknown, you come across things, and those things that have an affiliation with you, you feel like that's the direction I'm gonna go. I don't know anything about it now. I know that I don't know about it, but I know that I want it. So now you know that you don't know. But guess what? You can't just stop there if you really want it. You gotta act like you want it. You say you want it, but you gotta act like you want it. Keyword is act. You gotta take some action. Now you're finding out about it. You're learning about it. You're reading about it. You're practicing it. You're doing something. Now you know that you know. Yeah, you've demonstrated some success in it. You're building up your confidence in it, building up your competence in it, and eventually, just like riding a bike, you're gonna be doing it unconsciously. So it's just like bending down and tying up your shoe. You don't say step one, grab the loop, or grab the one string, step two, grab the second string, step three, you know, twist them together. No, you just reach down, a system happens, you stand back up and your shoes tied because you've done it so many times that you don't have to think about it anymore. It's done automatically. And anything could be done that way. Success can be done that way. You got to do it a certain way. You got to find your swing. Once you find that swing, you master that swing. So that whenever you do come up to the plate, it's not a problem. You're hitting it out the park every time. But you can't be afraid to go into the unknown because you can never start that process until you do so. If you're going to lean on your public education to be successful or to want it all, you're just going to be wanting. You got to go out and you got to do something. If you don't know what you want to do, you got to go exploring. You got to go into private. That's where it all is. The public is being supported by the private. It's supply and demand. Are you the supplier? Are you just demanding?
that was a good one. That was a good one, man. It was an interesting transition, man. The status correction, Because you come into it with that mindset of, oh, well, what about claiming my nationality? So many people say, I don't want to be under this artificial coloring. See, these are people that are coming into what's called knowledge of self, when you know you're not a crayon. That's clear and evident. Of course, you're not a crayon. But at the same time, now that you're not moving into a crayon status, you're looking to move into a status of know thyself. So the status correction is not ignorance of self, it's know thyself. A lot of people go through ancestry.com and try to do that situation. We recommend at least doing it for the census aspect, so you can start going back through the census and stuff. Maybe not the swab through the mouth, but the census, like when you go on, you can see previous ancestor name, just type it in and they'll start doing searches for the names. So it's more of a search for the name than it is actually a cotton swab. um, oh yeah, a swab in the mouth. So but status correction is knowing your ancestors. We know that it's important to know your ancestors. So we definitely know that, and that's why it's important to know that your ancestors gave you an opportunity to be in a position to do something right now to correct the status. We could sit here and say, oh, for generations they haven't done anything. Well, they were wrapped up. They were this, they were that. But you're that generation for that status correction. And that comes from modifying the contract. How do you modify that? Some people say, well, what about the paperwork? I got to get the paperwork in place. Okay, so now that you have that in place, how do you enforce the contract if you don't have any supporting education? See, that's why the vault is a continuing education. It's because it's made for you to, or made for individuals and families to know how the status correction process really is. People always come through with about questions about the UCC, X, Y, and Z, UCC. It's like, look, when you get into private, you learn about contracts, which the UCC is contract. Oh man, really? Yes. When you learn how to properly contract as a trustee, then you learn that. Status correction. You got to modify the contract. But many aren't going to modify the contract. They're going to be arrogant. They're going to try to so called escape the clutches of the system, and they're going to get ripped to shreds instead of just playing fairly. Understanding, ladies and gentlemen, even through the years and years we've been through the vault, we can tell you already now, the education cometh to he that seeketh the longest. See, it's about how long you can hold out. So many are giving up. They gave up on life. Many don't want to say they've given up on life, but they've given up on life. And your status correction is saying, I'm taking back the reins back in my control. As long as we have air in our lungs, we're going for the ultimate ultimate. We're going for the ultimate goals. We're going for the ultimate achievement. It's not just a status correction, it's a mindset shift. You modify the contract. You leave in beneficiary status and you go into co-creator status. You leave the competitive mind and go into the creative mind. Oh man, I don't know how to get this. You learn how to get back in tune with nature. Because you learn that, guess what? If you ask, you're supposed to receive. How hard times gonna come upon you? Hard times came upon you because you forgot to stop saying, you forgot to keep saying thank you. And you didn't make the right actions. So now, if you're moving in a status correction, the right actions come from the right mindset. The right mindset says every day we're getting up and we're focused on cash flow. Irregardless of how hard it may seem, getting up out the bed every single day to say, look, I'm pulling myself up by my bootstraps, but that's what you're doing. You're pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. You're being self directed. See, this game isn't for everybody. We used to hear the Donald Trumps and the business people of the world say entrepreneurship and investing isn't for everybody. That's who this show is for. It's for entrepreneurs and investors. It's for the people that are actually going to create something in the society. That's the bottom line. They create it through intellectual property. They create it through hard tangible assets. But they create something. But what happened to the ones that didn't create? They went out and they actually asked. and they got just enough for they got fed a fish. They didn't want to know how to fish. They wanted to be given a fish. They wanted to be given a fish. A check. Give me a check. No. How about it's time for you to start learning to fish on your own? Really? I got to fish on my own, man? I wasn't taught that. My whole life, I wasn't taught to fish on my own. I wasn't taught to create a schedule for myself. I wasn't taught to have a health plan. I wasn't taught that. I went through public school. I got the food pyramid. And how well is that serving you right now? How well is all of what you knew serving you right now? It's a status correction. So the status correction means that you don't use the same knowledge that kept you in that same status. You move into a different status. It's an elite mindset now. An elite mindset? What you mean? It's focused on your family. It's an elite mindset. It's sleepless nights. What? Status correction? I gotta invest? Yes. I'm gonna make mistakes? Yes. Status correction. Okay. But what about the paperwork? What's the paperwork I need? Is it the UCC? Is it the SPC? Is it the DDD? Who knows? Which one is it? Okay. So let's go ahead into it. So, first of all, the status correction, like the elders used to say, that it's not in the paperwork. Y'all done heard it kept saying it. So as you hear me saying it, it's not a coinky dink. It's not a oh man. Well, what's the paperwork? Is there any paperwork involved? First of all, what vehicle are you using to travel on the monopoly board? You using a corp? You using a charity? Are you using a business? What are you using? Are you a sole prop? What are you using on the monopoly board? Because if you're not in a Ferrari, you're probably not going to go fast. If you're in a Honda, because you want to live your life I'm going to live a modest life. People come to the vault all the time. I didn't make that much money last year. And what are you bragging? I didn't make that much money last year. I didn't make but $40,000 last year. What are you bragging about that? You bragging about losing? Oh man, we got people that come to the vote talking about they made $100,000 last year, and they still sound like they losing. Man, we only cleared $100,000. Yeah, so you got $1 million business. You got a lot of excess expenditures in the company. You're really not doing good management in the company. You actually have a crappy ass accountant and lawyer, and you want to sit here and wonder why you're coming home with 100K off of $1 million business, $1.3 million business. But man, all I made is $100,000 last year. That's all I claim. Yeah, okay. See, status correction means that you're actually focused on assets under management. It's the bottom line. What are the assets under management? What are the assets under management? Are you focused on assets under management, or are you focused on oh man, man, I ain't made no money last year? Why are so many people proud to say they didn't make any money last year? See, that's how you know you need to correct your status so your mindset is broke. I didn't make, and the people around you saying that, well, I didn't make that much money last year. What is that, a badge of honor that you didn't make any money, that you didn't control any assets, that you didn't generate any cash flow for you and your family? That you didn't acquire assets and grow assets, that you didn't grow wealth? How's that a badge of honor? And once again, that goes back to your aggression level. Are you an alpha or are you a beta? So many people are okay with being partial betas. They want to sit in a room with other smart people. What is the point of sitting in a room with other smart people if you're not going to be smart? People that are smart hang out with other people that are smart. If you're not smart, you're going to get exposed. You're going to get kicked out the room. You got to show thyself approved. Once you have knowledge of self, you got to show thyself approved. You got to study your game up. Oh man, I got to give up most recreations. You're right. Think about it. You went through how many years of school to dumb you down? It's called the dumbing down of America. You trying to go from minority to majority. Man, how much does that cost? Man, that costs about like $5,000. Oh man, that costs about $10,000. Man, ain't nobody getting no college degree for no $5,000. Period. Unless you're going to community college first. But you're not getting a college degree for that. And then Cornell comes through with a $300 trading webinar, and people are hemming and hawing. You got people. He came through with a $400 webinar. People are hemming and hawing. $500 webinar. People are hemming and hawing. First of all, the information is $100,000. That's because that's what he paid for it. It's not, oh man, well, can you give me the discount? How can someone give you the discount on something that they paid for? Well, it's brotherly love. He's supposed to be helping me out. We come from the same situation. Okay, so he does give it to you. Bottom dollar. First of all, they had people standing in line for Jordans this past weekend, or past week, out and about in the public. They were standing in line with the mask on, a long line, trying to get Jordans. Jordans, whether they're $200, $300, these are collector's items. Okay, you're collecting information now. Just like you went to school to collect a degree or collect information, now you're collecting information for your family estate. Actually, things that you can put some value and weight on, which is called a system or a process, where you come into the private and now you say, okay, I bought a management system, a trustee management system for my family to have. Because when you go private, you got to have the management system in place. Most people are going to say, well, I've never been over here before. What do I need to have in place? You got to have the management system in place. You got to have the trusteeship training in place. Once you have the system for yourself, then you can teach it to your children. That's the same thing with the trading. You see how when you go into private, all the information is something you can teach your children because it's a family environment. That's the status correction. You ain't been teaching nothing to your kids. Everybody's going this way and that way. In the private, you're focused on your last name. In the private, the people come and we sit down at the table. We have a family plan. It ain't my husband's plan or my wife's plan. It's our plan. You think families don't have to have conversation in the private about money? But how many people were brought up and they never seen their parents have a conversation about money? How much of a deficit that is? When we sat in the room and we heard and we saw people have their 13-year-old children. That's why we allow children to come to the workshops. And so they can sit in the room and see that wealthy families are working together, that African American families are working together. So you don't hear the myths out there. You got to modify the contract. It's a status correction. You working together with other private families. You're not sitting around talking about, oh man, it's hard times in the public right now. When the public is welfare? How is it never not hard times? It's always hard times in the public. But oh, people want to play pity pat and they want to sit over there and oh man, well, I'm gonna watch the public news. What the heck you think is gonna be on the public news? Well, is it anything private on there? Well, then if it's not anything private, that's where your attention can be. But what happens? People get caught up. I gotta click on the news. See, the traders even say, oh man, I don't know. That it can't be that simple. Cornell couldn't have taught me nothing. I ain't never gotta watch the news. You trying to tell me I could be thrown in the middle of nowhere and all I gotta do is see a chart and I don't need the news? You don't need the news. But when you sit there and you talk to Cornell and you really ask him, hey man, do you watch the news? Why is Cornell watching the news? He's private. It doesn't matter because he's trading. Oh man, it's got to be because he's trading, because when you're trading, you got to know about the news. The news is reactionary. You know that. You learn that when you go through the training. You learn that. Well, I do. You're right about that. I agree with that. Okay, so the status correction is we begged and pleaded with y'all. Invest in your private education. We've been on the air for years saying invest in your private education. Oh man, we don't know which one to go with. We gonna go with SPC or we going with Trustee? Which one we gonna go to it? Okay, so now you're the creditor. You're supposed to be the creditor and you're the natural being over the debtor. Oh man, I need to know how to discharge this. I need to know how to do that. All right, so we had all the gurus go through. But how come, look, we got women that are so smart that they have never went through any of that SPC stuff and they operate in the public like stone cold killers. They will take a company, build it to $1 million in business credit and literally destroy it overnight because they understand how credit works in the public. And people want to sit around talking about some paperwork. When they know how to, I wouldn't just say bankrupt companies, but that's what it is. You grow companies and you get rid of them. They know how to build shelf corps. Women in the public, for all of the men out there that are out there peddling the messages of the status correction. Women that can build companies from scratch, from zero right now to then the next 6 months having $100,000 on the business credit plus, and actually using those companies and getting rid of those companies and selling those companies. Shell corps. That's what you get in the private. You don't get the gimmicks. You got to get people that got to put the snuff to the nuff. They got to step up to the plate. You got to shake their hand. See, people in the public want to hide behind the internet, maybe. But in the private, we already know you got to shake people's hand. These guys want to tell you about how to get rid of stuff. Okay, we know women in the public, and we know men too as well. But we want to highlight the fact that this isn't rocket science here. So this isn't just for the men. This is for the women too. That literally they literally they have the cars that they actually want in their life. This isn't a lack situation. See, and Ken Des actually said that. Maybe you could talk about that, Ken Des. But see, in the public there's lack, in the private there's abundance. You've been seeking abundance your whole life, but all of a sudden you still want to stay in the public. Oh man, I
Right.
gotta take a little handout. I gotta take just enough to get me to the next day. You still trying to be fed the fish, and y'all want to sit here and talk about I'm trying to be the fisherman? There's a lot of checking right now that people need to be checking in their lives. Are you dependent on the public? Are you dependent on the private? When you're in the private, you're dependent on each other. You're working with the other ones that's in the private. That's the bottom line. But there's a lack of chiefs, a lack of chiefs. That not a lack of Indians. It's a lack of chiefs. And the status correction is being a leader. It's modifying the contract.
Mm. It's about being proactive instead of reactive. Being proactive is getting into your studies because after you study it and you comprehended what you studied, that's what you for life. It's a business mindset. You put everything in on the front end so that you can sit back on the other end instead of trying to sit back on the front end and expecting everything on the other end. You
Right.
see how they flip the flop? You see, but nature, if you've ever had a garden and planted anything that bears fruit, you know anybody who has a garden, you ever notice how they just come to work and they trying to give stuff away because they got so much? That's how nature works. There is no lack in anything. It's all about your belief system. Are you believing that there's a lack? Is that your expectation that you're acting off of, that there's a lack of something? There is no food shortage. If you've ever grown your own food, you would see that there's so much you and your family can't consume it alone. You and if you don't have the business mindset or the sales skills or the marketing skills, you end up giving it away for free because it's too much. It's just gonna spoil. You at least want to keep it circulating. Take some so that you could reseed, take the seeds out, dry them up, have them ready for next season. Keep it in circulation. That's how you're supposed to do your money. Keep it in circulation. Let your money get you more money. That's what the whole concept of passive income is about. There's plenty of money out there. They're printing trillions of every currency every day. And it's for you to get. You just gotta go through the process, learn how to get it. Go through the process, learn how to utilize it. Go through the process, learn how to keep it. It's a process, and you want to put all the work up front. because the harder you work in the front end, the more effort you put towards not knowing it, and then knowing it and struggling, and then all of a sudden not struggling anymore, becoming more successful, becoming more confident in your ability to do whatever your endeavor is, and then mastering it, and then surrounding yourself with other people who've mastered their craft, and then partnering with them.
Right? Understanding
And
that's what's going on in the private is the partnership. So many people think, oh, I'm going to the private and be lonely, lone soldier. Not gonna happen. We're gonna take some questions here, Kid Days. Hey,
okay,
brother, you got somebody? Appreciate everybody for tuning in live. Once again, listen to the replay. I appreciate the knowledge you're putting out. How do I get in contact with you? Regards to, we'll put in the email, but if you look in the description of the actual episode, it actually says Christian at trustchristian.com. And we'll put that in that chat as well. Uh, Someone says, I've been trying to contact you through email, and the email will not go through. All right, well, Rodney, you can feel free to reach out to the email that just was typed into the chat, and we appreciate you for reaching out. So, there we go. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live or tuning in the replay. Like we said, we had a lot of people come to us for years now about, the UCC and all that stuff. And we're not saying that those things don't give protection to copyrights or different types of assets and things like that. But so many people have come to us throughout the years about securities and all these different securities. And we just want to sit here and say, look, if it's about the securities that you all are talking about, if it's about the securities, then let's talk about the fact that how come none of them have securities license or are going to get their assets listed on the stock exchange? How come they're not going to get the assets listed as a security? Oh, I got the birth certificate. It's a security. We've already heard people go into private and say, oh, I got this done and that done. But no, they didn't. They didn't get it done. We're talking about the ones that are trying to get it done. So let's talk about the ones that are trying to get it done. They say, oh, I got this document and I'm trying to, monetize it. I'm trying to securitize it and all this other stuff. It's like you're bear hunting with a buggy whip. It's not gonna happen. That's just the bottom line because it's not. Most of the time, most people don't have a business mindset to say, okay, this is a security, but they don't know how to get it securitized because they didn't go to a securities agent. We always say, look, if you're going to do that, then you dealing with securities. You dealing with all those laws over there that's dealing with Security Exchange Commission, all that different type of stuff. So it's like, why would you not go that route if you're going to go that route? But we see so many, they just get taken up on the route of, well, I need to put myself in a position of slight ownership, which they don't know is really just trusteeship, which is control. But they think, oh man, I got to own the name and this, that, and the third. I got to listen to these sheiks over here, these guys to tell me, don't own your name and don't get rid of it though. And these guys got me going back and forth through the system and this, that, and the third. It's like, man, I don't know where to start with all this information. But we can tell you where to start with the information for sure. And that's obviously you taking some time to, like you said, do the due diligence. The one thing that we were really impressed with Candez about when he came to the vault was the fact that he said he listened to every episode before he came. So when we got on the first consultation, he had questions. All of his questions were based off of the entire episode barrage, which is really beautiful because it puts a person in a position where they pretty much are trying to check you to see if you're going to stay consistent with your message or if you're changing up. And a lot of times, a lot of those self-help guru guys, they change their position ever since the vault's been out. It's been dealing with trustee training. There's no way around it. It deals with that because it's about the management throughout your life, about the different aspects, like you say, the different mini boxes. You may being a trustee of your body, you're being a trustee of your family, you're being a trustee of your talents, you're being a trustee of people. And so, for that reason, you're taking your time to do your best to make sure that you're in the proper status, and it's not a low grade status. It's a status of high regard, high respect. People have the word respect for a reason. Respect is a real word. And people sometimes don't have respect because of a status correction. And people want that respect. They want to be acknowledged. They want thyself to be acknowledged. They want to be respected. And the way that you're respected is as well through status corrections of having your mindset right. And we already know that comes from making sure not just the paperwork, but the lifestyle, the investment in the education, and all of that good stuff. That's just the bottom line. Cause people come to us about their UCC stuff, and then we're like, well, look, when you know contract, then you know that. So what's the point of talking about that? What's the point of getting a conversation just about that? And then we got people that come to the vote and they say, "Oh, I'm ready to go private." They don't really have much to protect at this very moment, so they gonna go private just alone by starting a business, a LLC or C corp on the public side. They say, "Okay, it's own nothing, control everything." So that's where the priority is, right? And so otherwise, what are you doing with your life? Why are you contacting the vote if you don't have any interest on doing anything with your life? Some people do. So they have an interest. They just trying to know what's the best car to get in so they can move on that board a lot faster. That's just the bottom line. Some people are tired of driving in cars that got BS regulators on them, or they got all these different things on them. And you're like, come on, man, I need a Ferrari. I deserve a Ferrari. That's a nice car right there. People don't even know. They're like, why do they make new cars every year? You know, they making new cars for a reason, and Ferrari's making a handmade, so they're not even making that many, and they still making them every year. They don't take years off from greatness, trying to make the car better, and neither should you. A status correction knows that you can have all you want, and it's not through the get rich quick. It's through actual work. So many people are trying to think they're gonna have an internet business and they're not gonna have to work. Guess what? That's not gonna work right now. People thought they was gonna just be able to sit at home and make the money over the internet. Yep, and then it is what it is. It is what it is. But there are so many people that they have opportunity to correct their status, and a lot of that is not just verbally. It's financially. Oh man, I don't want somebody calling me that. All right, cool, but bank account can say otherwise. And so many people don't want to play that game. The correction of, instead of you being a beneficiary, you move into TTEE, and you move into that position of you're in a position of control. You're not being a beneficiary. And so we just appreciate you all for tuning in live or listening to replay. Definitely been on here for a while. This is just the episode to really go over the information, because so many people talk about that status correction stuff. They come through, they ask about status correction, but in all actuality, if they knew that it was just a lifestyle that they really about to encumber upon, they'd be like, okay, maybe now I can take a deep breath. Because so many people, they still haven't taken a deep breath. They ain't taking a deep breath about the game yet. You haven't taken a deep breath about the game. So now what do you think is going to happen? You're going to be overwhelmed. And a lot of them say it. Oh man, I come into the private, I don't know where to start. They'll be in training for a whole year, almost 6 months, and they'll literally say, man, where do I start? What do you mean, where do you start? You already took the first step. It's protect, preserve, grow, and pass on. The four keys.
That's simple.
And that's the status correction. It's putting yourself back in the proper position. Not in your improper person, but everybody try to say I'm going pro se. So you're going in your proper person. And guess what? If you're in a person, that means that you're doing what? You're in a corporation. So you might as well get in the proper position. That's it. And the proper position is not just the position of the position. So many people think, oh, I got the 9-8 number, I'm straight. How you straight and you calling the vault? You wouldn't be calling the vault if you didn't need help. Why you think people contact the vault? Because they can use a little bit of help. And we know this. We know this, man. We know that there are people that are out there that are listening to the gurus over the internet, and they haven't invested in their private education. They haven't. They ain't in the same. They're not in the wealth circles then, and they're not in the wealth circles now. We're in the wealth circles. We see who's in the room. We see the big banks. We see them in the room. And we don't see the gurus over the internet. If you come in the room, you're going to see Trust Christian in the Vault in the room. Because that's where we're at. It's not a place to hide. They're not hiding that they have $1 billion assets under management or that they have $300 million assets under management. They're not hiding that. They're in the right vehicle. They're in the spaceship and they're moving at light speed, just like the information. They can't depend on the news. They're managing billions of dollars. They're going to make decisions financially off of news? No. But everybody would love to believe that. Oh man, I can't believe it. There's a thing. Man, y'all just don't know. I got to invest in the education aspect of it. How do I know I'm not going to get ripped off? Well, did you get ripped off in the public? You being a little crass. Okay, no worries. Results, not reasons. Results, ladies and gentlemen. Results. That's what we're talking about in life. The status correction is a result. People say, "Oh, well, I got the paperwork in place, so I'm free." Okay, free from what? What were you so locked down to? Well, I was under the rules. Okay, it's sort of like those artificial lines between each state. You just got out of a contract with a machine, with an entity. That's what you got out of, or you're free. Appreciate you all for tuning in live, listening to replay. Christian at trustchristian.com. Status correction, modify that contract or modify the contract. That's what a lot of people wanted to do. And they're up the creek without a paddle and they're hurting right now. They've been hurting for years out here. Oh man, I'm trying to go through and get these things done in my life. Sure you are. So you're trying to get these paperwork things in place. And now you don't even trust the mentors that you got. You don't even trust the guys that you with. It's a lot of people they go through the internet. They don't even trust the people they dealing with. And in turn you're gonna get ripped. But there are a few people over the internet and people know who they are. People contact the vault or a couple other people and they gonna do the job. But a lot of people over the internet, when they come to trustee training, or really not a lot of trustee trainings, you get a lot of guys telling you that that your birth certificate is worth all this money as a status correction piece. No, then no one tells people, hey, why don't you just go apply for diplomatic status? Oh man, I never thought of that. It can't be that easy. I'ma still be a citizen, but you'll be a diplomatic status one. But then I mean, it's just like it's always a reason instead of a result. Appreciate you all for tuning in live, listening to replay. Christian at trustchristian.com. We've heard about this status correction for years, and we probably see it's probably more people getting onto it because it's the internet and it's unlocking. And we just know that people are going to be hiking a year or two trying to follow the fezzes and follow all these different organizations, and then they're going to say, well, I need to be out here on my own, and they're going to try to abandon self. They're going to abandon the fact that they need to work with other private people because they're going to get pissed off that the public is not serving them right. Oh man, the public, these guys over the internet, they telling me to do the SPC, and then next thing you know, I'm not richer. Exactly. Was it a process to make you rich, or was it a system designed to keep you poor by a COINTEL Pro agent? Oh man, I know about those people. I heard about them. Yeah, you did. So what happened? Yes, they give you the misinformation. Then when you see the truth, you're hesitating on pulling the finger on the truth, and that's why you gonna get your hands burned because you can't be lukewarm. You gotta be hot or you gotta be cold. You gotta be in or you gotta be out. You gotta ride or you gotta die. But they don't want to hear that. So in the public, they gave you a security. It's called social security. It's the welfare. For all the ones that wanted the correction of the status, appreciate you all for reaching out. Christian at Trust Christian. Appreciate you all. Y'all enjoy y'all day. Peace and blessings.